Hello YouTube, my name is Tanya. Today I'm going to show you how to make a delicious oil-free, dairy-free apple crisp. So step into my kitchen and I'll show you how it's done. So first, preset your oven at 350 degrees. So the first step you want to do is actually prepare your apples. So I actually use a mix of Granny Smith apples and also Pink Lady apples. I have already pre-chopped most of the apples. Well, this is 4.5 apples. First thing you want to do is remove the skin from your apple. Remove the inner core. So you want to remove the core so you don't have any crunchy pieces in your apple crisp. So I'm going to chop this apple into small square pieces. All right, so we have all of our apples in the pan at this time. The next thing we're going to do is prepare our wet ingredients. In this recipe, I'm actually going to add a 4 cup of maple syrup to the apples. Now, but before I do that, the wet ingredients are actually going to include a tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice. So I'm going to squeeze it out in this container here. And the reason why I do this is because if any seeds fall into my container, I can easily remove them. So taking the freshly squeezed lemon juice, I can simply pour it into my maple syrup. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. Then I'm going to put a pinch of salt, just a pinch, not too much, into the wet ingredients. So typically, I would actually use a special type of cinnamon called Ceylon in this recipe. So Ceylon is a tan brown cinnamon that actually grows in the beautiful island of Grenada. I like to use that cinnamon in my baked goods. I typically buy the cinnamon from a company called Spice Caribbean. So Spice Caribbean actually sells both the ground and the bark form of that cinnamon. They grow their cinnamon organically, and also they curate it in a way that it preserves the bark of the tree. I've actually left the link to the company below the title of this video. Check them out if you're interested. And just a disclaimer, they are not paying me to advertise for them. I simply like to recommend quality products to my viewers. Okay, let's get back to the recipe. But unfortunately, I actually ran out of that cinnamon because I love it so much. However, there is an alternative that you can use in case you don't have cinnamon at home or if you prefer a different taste. In this case, I'm going to use a combination of 2 Indian spices. One is called coriander and one is called cardamom. I took about a 1/4 teaspoon of each and put them into this container. So it's a 50-50 mix. I'm going to take about a 1/2 of a 1/4 teaspoon. And the reason being is because cardamom and coriander they're very rich flavors and you don't want it to overpower the taste of the apples. Now the last thing that we want to do is to add about a tablespoon of chickpea flour to the wet ingredients. And the reason for this is because we want the juices in the apple crisp or in the apple base of the apple crisp to thicken. And I'm going to take this entire tablespoon of chickpea flour and place it into my wet ingredients. I'm just going to give it a little mix so it's nice and even. You want it to be as well mixed out as possible. So we're all set with our wet ingredients. I'm now going to pour it over the apples. I'm going to mix it all in. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of water, or 3 to 4, just to make sure that the apples are not dry. Final step with the apple base is to put it into your baking container. Spread out your apples and set it aside. So the crust for this apple crisp requires a cup of oat flour. We're going to use whole grain rolled oats, and we're going to pour those oats into the cup for my NutriBullet. I'm actually going to blend these oats out until it forms a fine flour, but you can use any blender that you have at home. So you want your oat flour to be nice and as fine as possible to make a really good oat crust. So I'm going to add my oat flour to the rolled oats. So the oat flour helps to bind the oats together when we actually add our sweetener in. So I'm just going to gently mix it around so that it is an even mixture of oats and oat flour. Now the next thing we're going to do is prepare our wet ingredients. So in this recipe, I'm going to use a ½ cup of sweetener. So my sweetener consists of 100% pure, raw, unfiltered honey. Unfiltered honey actually has enzymes and B vitamins. So you actually do get nutrition from this type of honey. And I'm also using 100% pure organic maple syrup. So this combination of sweetener is a 1/4 cup of maple syrup and a 1/4 cup of organic or of unfiltered raw honey. I'm gonna add a 4th teaspoon of vanilla to our sweetener. I'm also going to add a 4th teaspoon of our coriander, cardamom spice to the wet ingredients. So that way it actually mixes in nicely. Finally, I'm going to add a pinch of salt to the wet ingredients. Mix the seasonings into the wet ingredients and pour the wet ingredients into the oat mixture. Then thoroughly mix the wet ingredients into the oats until it is well coated. Pour the oat topping over the apples and spread it out, but leave some clumps in the oat topping because this creates delicious oat clusters that are both crunchy and chewy after baking. Our oats are now ready. Let's put them in the oven. So you're going to put your apple crisp on the top shelf of the oven. I forgot to mention this, but cover your apple crisp with a piece of unbleached parchment paper before baking. This helps retain moisture. I ran out of that, so I ended up having to use foil. You will notice this later in the video. And you're going to bake it from 35 to 40 minutes or until the apples are nice and bubbly. All right, time for the moment of truth. Oh wow, look at that. You can smell the oats and the maple and the honey. It smells so delicious. But we're gonna have to wait for this to cool so the juices can settle, and then we're gonna take a piece. Be right back. Okay guys, so here's the final product. We have our delicious apple crisp. You can see those beautiful kernels right there. Some tasty blueberries and a homemade vegan coconut whipped cream that I personally made. I'll share the recipe of the whipped cream with you later. Now let's have a taste test. It's superb. The beautiful thing about this apple crisp recipe is that you can use any fruit of your choice for the base. You don't have to use apples, you can use mangoes, you can use blueberries. Also, for my vegans out there, you probably noticed that I did use honey in the sweetener. You don't have to use honey, you can use a completely plant-based sweetener of your choice. Let me know if you guys get a chance to try this recipe, and also put in the comments how it came out. If you use any other substitutions in this recipe, you can also let me know in the comments as well. And if you like what you saw, give this video a big thumbs up. And don't forget to share and subscribe. Until next time, take care.